Hello, welcome to another scientific session with Tope. Today, I will be taking you through the concept of vaccination. Vaccination has played such a massive role in our lives over the last few years. There's so much information about vaccination on the internet lately, a lot of it on social media. Some of it positive, some of it negative. There's a lot of misinformation as well. And so today I thought I would take you through the concept of vaccination, provide a bit of light, a bit of understanding about what it means. That way, maybe to a small extent, I can help clarify some of the misinformation that you have out there. It's important to note that I'm not giving this information for you to follow. It's important that any health or medical decisions that you make are done in consultation with a healthcare professional. This information is generally just to give you an understanding about the concept of vaccination, vaccines, provide a bit of an introduction to the physiology of the concept, and that way it maybe help clarify some questions that you may have. And with that said, what is vaccination? Well, vaccination is essentially the administration of vaccine. It's such a basic definition. The administration of a vaccine. But then that makes you ask, what is a vaccine? Well, the vaccine or vaccines are essentially molecules or compounds which are used to stimulate the body's adaptive immune system. Now, I'm sure at that point, questions start to ring in your mind. What is the body's immune system? Our bodies are absolutely amazing pieces of machinery. If you can think about the most crazy, the most incredible invention, the most incredible technological device or concept that you have in mind right now, and think about it to a billionth times, that's just about what we have with our body. Our bodies are amazing. They're also quite fragile. And so what our bodies have done to protect their fragility and to protect them from security risks is essentially develop a security system. So just to break it down to a little bit, imagine you have a really nice big house. You already know, or you immediately know, that there will be interesting eyes, some positive, some negative. And some of the negative interest in eyes could be criminals who are trying to invade your house for whatever nefarious reasons that they may have. Now, you don't want them there. So what do? You put in security systems. You may get a guard dog. You get a fence or wall around your house. You may put an electric fence. You may put a gate. You may put in cameras and CCTV. You may put in motion sensors and even self-defense tech within your house to support with securing this prized possession of yours. Well, it's the exact same. Our bodies are amazing pieces of creation. Within these amazing bodies that we have, there's a lot of external factors or external creatures who want to come in because they would like to enjoy this amazing environment that we've created or that we have. Now, some of these creatures do not have a positive purpose, and when they get in the body, they may destroy it to make themselves feel better, or when in the process of them trying to enjoy your body, they may destroy the body. And so the body develops a system, a security system, to try and prevent or to try and reduce or get rid of these nefarious organisms or pathogens before they cause too much damage. And that is essentially what the immune system is. It's a system that the body uses to get rid of pathogens or things that will affect the body in a negative way. It's divided into two sections. You have your innate immunity and you have your adaptive or your acquired immunity. Your innate immunity is essentially your basic immunity. This you are pretty much born with. It consists of your skin, epithelial cells, phagocytes, which are cells which chomp on or swallow pathogens, and they essentially do their very best to try and prevent anything unknown or unwanted from getting into the body. As you can imagine, they're non-specific. They're not specialized. They're your basic security systems. But as you know, there are high-level criminals out there who may be able to get past your gate. And that's the reason why you need to put in some motion sensors. They may be able to get through your electric fence, and that's why you need a guard dog. Well, that's the exact same thing with the immune system. There are some pathogens that very easily get through our innate immune system. And then we have to call on the higher ups. We have to call on the special ops who essentially have more specialized services and are able to target these more specialized pathogens that invade the body. And so you can imagine this will take a bit of a process. And so what happens is, for instance, you get infected by the flu virus. The flu virus gets in through the epithelial cells into your respiratory tract and starts making you sick. Well, your body eventually develops a defense towards this virus, and then it's able to get rid of it. But as you can imagine, that takes a couple of days. And the reason why it takes a few days is because there is a process to it. Every single pathogen or protein that gets into the body has something which you can almost classify as an identity document, which is called an antigen. Now, an antigen essentially is the recognizing factor or characterizing factor for any proteinous or cell pathogen that gets into your body. Your body is able to recognize those proteins by creating what is pretty much a bit of a database of something called antibodies. It creates antibodies that are specific to that antigen, and so when the flu gets into the body, or the flu virus gets into the body and expresses its antigens, the body eventually creates antibodies that recognize those antigens and then recognize the flu virus as bad, and those activate the acquired immune system, which is able to get rid of that flu virus. This database is kept for a while, and that's why you have memory. But in some instances, it doesn't last too long. And that's the reason why you have seasons. So you have a flu season because your body develops antibodies for the flu virus in the first time you get infected. But then after a while, maybe about 6 months, that wanes. And then when you get reinfected, your body goes to the database to say, what's this? And it doesn't remember, and it has to rebuild that database all over again. And so where do vaccines come into this? Well, vaccines essentially help you with creating that database. The idea of a vaccine is to try and reduce the amount of time that your body needs to create that database when a pathogen infects the body, or to even ensure that that database is nice and ready as soon as the pathogen enters the body, so the body is able to react a lot quicker. And so what you want to do is, you understand that a lot of these pathogens can be really dangerous. You actually don't want to have to deal with them. You don't want your body having to go through that long process of creating its own database, because during that process it can be so unpleasant. You could be sick, people get hospitalized. Something as simple as a common flu kills millions of people every year. And so what you try to do is prepare the body's database. That way, as soon as it gets exposed to the flu, the body recognizes it immediately, says, hey, I know you are not good, and I get rid of you before you can start causing any damage. That's essentially what a vaccine is. There are quite a few types of vaccines. You have what you call attenuated vaccines. Now, these vaccines essentially consist of live pathogens that are modified in a slight way. Maybe you add a bit of a protein to it, but what you try and do is you prevent or you inhibit or restrict its virulent properties, which are its ability to reproduce very quickly and essentially invade the body. And so what you do is you expose the body to a limited amount of this live viruses that have had their virulent properties muted. And so because they're not really spreading, they're not multiplying rapidly, they don't make you feel sick, or they don't make you feel sick at all. But the body is able to build up that database by recognizing it, knowing what it looks like, and then in the future when the actual pathogen invades the body is able to react very quickly to it. Examples of this include the yellow fever vaccine, which a lot of people take. I think it's very common in West Africa. And then you have the measles vaccine as well. As you know, we are pretty much almost close to kicking measles out or eradicating measles. So those are types of attenuated vaccines. Then you have inactivated vaccines or inactivated pathogen vaccines. Now, essentially, these vaccines consist of inactivated pathogens. You take the exact same pathogen, it could be a virus, it could be a bacteria, it could be anything, and then you inactivate it, you make it pretty much dead. But this pathogen still retains its properties in terms of the proteins that it expresses, etc. And so when you expose that to the body, it doesn't really cause much damage because it's not really alive. And then the body is able to create a database by recognizing the antigens on this inactivated pathogen, and then it creates a database, and when the actual pathogen invades the body is able to react quicker. An example of this is the polio vaccine. The next vaccine type that you have is a subunit vaccine. A subunit vaccine is essentially a vaccine that doesn't use a full or a whole pathogen. It takes a subunit of it. Think of it as an arm. So let's say, put it into the context of the real world. If there is a wanted criminal and you take a picture of their face and you put it on a wall, this allows people or security agents to see that face and recognize a lot quicker that this person that I'm seeing going past is wanted. So that's what you do. You essentially take a subunit of this pathogen, chomp it off, put it into a vehicle, and give that to the body. The body is able to create a database that recognizes that subunit as unwanted. And once that database is created, when the actual pathogen invades the body is able to see, oh wait, that's your face. That I know that face. Or I know that arm, or I know that leg, or I know that top. And it essentially attacks that subunit. But by virtue of attacking that subunit, it attacks the rest of the pathogen. And essentially, that is how subunit vaccines work. An example of this is the HPV vaccine. Now, one of the more recent options or more recent types of vaccines, novel technology that's only been recently introduced to the world, and as you can imagine, played a huge part in the period of the COVID pandemic, was RNA vaccines. Now, these vaccine types use RNA, or what you call messenger RNA. Messenger RNA is essentially scaffolding or framework that your body follows. It's like code. Your body follows that code to create or translate proteins or develop proteins. So essentially, what these really clever scientists have done is they've taken a pathogen, say a virus, and they've looked at the most important, or one of the most important proteins in that virus. And then they've taken the code or the instructions to develop that protein, and they've put it into what you call messenger RNA, because that's essentially the single strand of RNA that contains the code that you use to develop that protein. And so they put that code into the vaccine and expose that to the body. Now, what that code does is it goes into the body, it goes into your normal cells, and then it tells your normal cells to develop that protein. So say the vaccine contains about 1,000 pieces of that code. The amount of that code that survives, say about 700 after exposure to the body, go into the cells, and then your body creates 700 versions of that protein in your cytoplasm. Now, when that protein is created, the body recognizes, wait, I don't know this protein. It's not supposed to be here. And it develops the database against that protein. And so what that essentially does is it ensures that when the actual pathogen gets into the body, the body quickly recognizes, wait, I see that really important protein. That was the other thing that we had the other day that we were developing, and we don't want that here. And so very quickly the body is able to attack and get rid of that pathogen. That's essentially how mRNA vaccines work. And the reason why they've been so exciting is that they are quicker to make. They take a lot quicker to develop than most of the other vaccine types. And that's the reason why the response against COVID-19 was a lot quicker than we've had against most other pathogens. Now, I know that there's a lot of controversy around mRNA vaccines. I think I have seen a lot of people say things like they think mRNA vaccines go in and alter your genetic code, etc. Now, that's utter rubbish, and I'll tell you exactly why. Your genetic material, or your DNA, is contained within your nucleus. Your DNA produces the mRNA. So not the exact same code, obviously, but it produces mRNA for the different proteins that your own body needs, that your own body actually needs to survive. And what it does is it sends that mRNA out of the nucleus into the cytoplasm, where what we know as ribosomes do the coding. And they pretty much develop the protein from that code that is given to them. So when an mRNA vaccine is applied to a person, the mRNA does not go and interfere with your genetics. It doesn't go and interfere with your DNA because it doesn't go into your nucleus. It goes into the cytoplasm where the ribosomes are able to develop the protein. So I hope that kind of clears that whole little kind of question up. But yeah, those are the different types of, well, there's quite a few other types, but those are some of the main types of vaccines. And I hope that just with kind of understanding what they are, you're able to kind of sift through some of the misinformation that you have out there. If you are considering getting a vaccine for whatever purpose, if you're considering vaccinating your kids and stuff like that, always speak to a healthcare professional. I hope with all of that said, I've been able to provide a little bit of context, a little bit of information that may help you kind of with sifting through the noise all on social media. Please let me know if you have any questions, if you'd like to discuss further. Put in the comments any questions that you may have, if you have any thoughts about this topic, and I'll see you at the next one. Cheers.